It gives me great pleasure to welcome to the stage the moderator, Cyril Nika, the panelists, Tanya Rousseau and Louis Orleange. I got that wrong. I did tell him I'd butcher his name, but I thought the second part was good. Orleange from Plain Tiger. And welcome, and thank you for being here today.
Good morning, everybody. So it's good to be here this morning, and it's good to see familiar and friendly faces. Let me introduce you to who I'm speaking to this morning. So Tanya is a marketing, brand, and creative strategist with 18 years experience in the beauty and fashion, retail, and e-commerce industries. By keeping a finger on the pulse of trends, marketing insights, and flow of business, she clarifies and distills what brands stand for, helping to craft purpose-driven and consumer-centric identities. As part of the executive team at Plain Tiger, Tanya leads brand marketing, defining and bringing its brand values to life via compelling, relevant content and a strong focus on consumer purchasing psychology. Welcome, Tanya. And then we're going to go to Louis. Louis is an expert in developing brands that speak to targeted audiences across multiple platforms. Louis has worked for a plethora of leading global media companies. These include Elle, Condé Nast Vogue, and GQ, where he initiated the digitalization of media brands and their teams. Today, Louis is managing Plain Tiger's brands development thanks to his strong international network in both the fashion and luxury sectors. Currently, he resides in our beautiful city of Cape Town, his second home after Paris. So welcome to you, Louis. So I'm going to start this morning, and firstly, thanks to everybody that's here, and just to say that we also have a lot of people that are interested in the fashion industry or are thinking about going into the fashion industry, which I think is quite a great sort of audience to have. So the first question I'd like to ask is, what did you study, and how did you get into fashion?
Am I on?
You're on.
Strangely enough, I couldn't decide what to study because fashion was such an important part of my life from a lucky little girl. So there were two things. Either you sell fashion, which is kind of marketing, or you make it. I wasn't skilled in that way, so I decided to market it. And then from there, kind of my journey kind of expanded, and I got into branding and why brands are important and why products important, how it's manufactured. So kind of studied graphic design and marketing and kind of evolved through time.
That's incredible. I have to say, I mean, I think Tanya sells herself short because I would be working on something and I'd be panic-stricken and there'd be a desperate WhatsApp message or email, Tanya, please help. I don't know how to do this. Can you sort this out? And Tanya is literally a genius at marketing and what she does. And Louis, for yourself, what did you study?
I studied business, marketing and communication at European Business School in Paris, London, and Wiesbaden in Germany. So I'm unlike many people here, I'm not a designer, I'm not a creative person, I'm much more on the business side of fashion. But we all know that fashion is also a business, serious business. And then I spent the last 25 years in media, which is also a business, a struggling business right now, and most probably the closest partner of fashion up to now. I mean, not only magazines, but websites, events organized by media. So that's my background, yes.
I think you touched on something that's quite interesting because both marketing and fashion have seen declines, obviously through COVID. But I think more importantly, fashion, the business of fashion is not an easy one. And I think for our audience who are designers and wanting to get into the fashion industry, can you share a little bit about the challenges that you faced, but also the victories of working in the fashion industry?
Oh, I get to go first again. Tenacity. That is what you need to be in retail, fashion. You need to believe in yourself, believe in what you're doing. You just need that passion. I know people talk, it's passion, but that's what pushes you through and keeps you in the industry. It isn't a light-hearted industry. You're going to work hard, you're going to play hard, and you're going to have good reward. And you're going to have down days, but you're going to pick yourself up. And that's kind of what you need to have. That's why your passion and your tenacity is really important. The highlights for me, I don't want to go into lowlights because with life there's everything that has a downside. But the highlights for me have been working with brands and businesses that have purpose and believe and stand for something and want to do good. And those are the brands and businesses that thrive and prosper and kind of move forward. And a lot of people think fast fashion needs to be quick and instant. That time is gone. It's what you stand for, what you believe in, what you want to kind of push and promote. And what problem are you solving? That's really important. So that's been my highlights through the last 2-3 years. It's seeing these beautiful brands come up with purpose and doing good in turn.
For sure. That's quite beautifully put, because obviously it's not just about designing beautiful clothing, you know, and obviously I think in the business of fashion, you're certainly you're gonna focus on the garment itself, but I guess to the climate that you're in and location that you're in, you don't know what sort of obstacles one would face. You just got to think about KwaZulu-Natal and the looting that happened a few months ago. And I guess if you were in a fashion business, you have to be determined in what you're doing, or else your business would crumble. Louis, for yourself?
You ask about achievements. My achievement in fashion, I think, obviously, it has been the launch of GQ in France, which seems to be obvious, but at that time, the men's market was, the French men's fashion market was very much behind. I think GQ South Africa launched before GQ in France, just to tell you how far behind France was in terms of men's fashion, unlike many people might think. And that gives me the opportunity to tell you how important and wonderful this time of launching a brand. Some of you are launching your brand. You have to realize that this is the best time and the most exciting time of you might find it very difficult. You might find it sometime you might lose faith in but believe me, launching a brand is the best moment in your business life. So that, for me, has been the first achievement. The second achievement has been to make understand to the Vogue Paris people that digital was their future. And again, that seems to be obvious now, but at that time, we had two separate teams. People from the print wouldn't talk to the digital. The editor-in-chief of the Vogue Paris magazine was saying to the advertisers, don't go on Vogue website, which was her website, because it's not good, or I don't know what it is. Can you believe that now? I mean, I'm talking about 5-7 years ago. It's not so old. But by putting a lot of effort in convincing and myself switching to digital, I embarked people to believe in this digital media, which are now keys for the future of fashion media and for fashion as well.
Maybe I just want to pick up on one question from there. How did you sort of figure that digital was the way forward?
Just because it enabled, I could see that it was enabling us to have much more possibilities of expressing not only our content, but also pictures, videos, live. That's endless, you know, compared to the print, which is a very, I wouldn't say basic, because print magazine is actually a very sophisticated product. But yes, that's, for me, it was a huge opportunity to be to just have more possibilities of express what you want to say. And that's, I hope, what you are experiencing. We are going to talk about that later, but through social media and digital in general.
Yeah, I think that's good advice, because I think for designers as well to think out the box in terms of when they are working and designing, they shouldn't only think about print media, but they should also focus digital. And I guess if they focus on digital, they should also think about print. So there is definitely a balance, because I think both are sort of important, vitally important.
Most important, and I take this opportunity to give that, is that you always keep a direct relationship with your audience. Never subcontract that to any platforms. Not Facebook, not Instagram. I mean, these people can change quickly, and you always want to have this direct contact with your customers, with your audience. I mean, that's what we are doing at Plain Tiger. That's an amazing job that Tanya is doing every day through our content. So we always keep direct contact, and obviously with retail stores, events, any opportunities where you can interact with your audience directly without media, without social media, is also very important. So that's a bit tough, because we are basically telling you, you have to be on social media, you have to be on digital media, and by the way, you also have to interact directly with your audience. But that's a game.
Yeah, I think maybe just to summarize that, I think what's quite nice is if anybody had watched the whistleblower of Facebook, anybody watched that interview, or when we had the complete shutdown with Facebook, Instagram, I think if you rely solely on social media, or you rely on Facebook for your marketing, you're kind of putting your business in jeopardy. So I think it requires a lot more business acumen. And if you're a very sort of focused designer and don't really have the marketing side, I think it's important when you talk about the United Nations SDGs, number 17 is about partnerships. I think what you should do is focus with the right partners. You know, who in your team has marketing experience? Who in your team you could leverage on good advice? But I want to pivot to another question which I'm really passionate about, because apart from these leading experts in their industry, we're also friends, and we also work on the same company, for the same company, which is Plain Tiger. So I'm going to let Tanya tell us a little bit about Plain Tiger.
I'm going to sell it short, Cyril, so you have to chip in there for me. It is a phenomenal business. It's a phenomenal brand that came and developed pretty much around a table. We were sitting there chatting, and we were kind of saying, what is really important to us? And we were like-minded people that were very passionate about certain parts of our industry, media, retail, wellness. And we were kind of saying conscious consumerism needs to happen, and how do we do this within our industry? And we were just having a chat, and a beautiful butterfly flew onto the window, and we realized that's called a Plain Tiger. And we were kind of going, okay, well, let's not get all weird about this. But that's how the brand was born. The brand was born amongst like-minded people with the same values. And we realized that, you know, retail and fashion is going to be there, but how do we make it better? How do we change it? How do we give consumers one place to make the right decision? Because what's happening is there's a lot of people popping up doing really amazing work, but they have to fight so hard against the stream to be seen and noticed. I'm sure a lot of you sitting here are going, how am I going to do that? So we said, how do we put them all together in one family and make it easier for a consumer to shop and find this conscious product? So that's kind of how Plain Tiger started. But then while we were going down the road, we kind of realized there are such phenomenal brands locally and internationally, but they weren't sustainable. They were almost there. They might have had the right fabrication, but the business practice wasn't sustainable. The values weren't 100% right. And that's where the Plain Tiger Sustainability Accelerator came about. So we're almost trying to feed the pipeline of good sustainable brands and take the ones that have got beautiful product and move them over into a good sustainable business. So we're kind of feeding the industry, we're collating the industry, we're discovering and curating. So that's who we are. Passionate people about sustainability, luxury, fashion, beauty, and homeware.
Brilliant. Louis, I also don't want to sort of miss this opportunity on your part because you're responsible at Plain Tiger for bringing businesses into the platform. And how have you found that to be?
Actually, I shouldn't say that, but I found it quite not easy. But as you know, there is such a massive trend right now towards sustainability, and every day you read articles about how the legacy luxury brands are trying to be more sustainable, are even our competitors like Farfetch or My Teresa marketplaces launching dedicated section for sustainable brands. So I mean, it's really there is a lot of greenwashing, of course, and we are very aware about that. And some people take opportunities of that to maximize their sales. But we think at Plain Tiger that we are in the right trend, and we are fighting for the right values. We, as Tanya said, we all come from the fashion or the luxury industry, and we are a bit slightly older than the average of the audience. So we have this experience, and probably thanks to this experience, we know that the future of luxury is definitely in sustainable luxury. We are convinced about that, and yes, that's what we are doing every day by sourcing brands from all over the world at Plain Tiger.
Can I add to that?
Yeah,
Cyril?
sure.
You know what Louis was saying about you get the bigger brands or bigger retailers that will put in a capsule collection around sustainability. You know, I think that's great, you're making a move, but for us, we didn't want to be a section. We wanted the whole brand to stand for that. And I think that was kind of the root behind it. It was one place, one thing, not 50% is, we've got very strong criteria that brands and designers need to meet. We call it our 5 conscious criteria. So it's quite a stringent checklist. And it wasn't about the greenwashing. It wasn't like, oh, it's made out of linen, let's pass it by and it's okay. So it's 100%. And I think that's what leads down to brand purpose, brand values, authenticity and tenacity. That's who we are.
And I think also just to mention, so while Plain Tiger was going on as a business, Alex and Ollie had contacted me because of the role I have at Fashion Revolution, and they were like, we need you to come on board to join Plain Tiger to launch an accelerator program. And I think what Tanya was talking about, the 5 conscious criteria, obviously I'd known about Plain Tiger, I'd looked at what they were doing, but it really is an e-commerce platform that puts their money where their mouth is, in the sense of they practice what they talk about. And so we worked on a curriculum, and I see Natalie is in our audience as well as part of the accelerator program. And it was very interesting to sort of put together a curriculum and then sit back and realize that, wow, this is actually one of the first in South Africa, actually then Africa. And we had major retailers calling, also asking about the accelerator. Fashion Revolution Global has also come on board. The United Nations, specifically the SDG department, had come on board as well. And I think the future of fashion is 100% live and well and healthy. While there is the ugly side to fashion, which is the unsustainability side and bad production and bad working conditions and ethics, I think it's up to you and I as individuals and what we do and how we manage the industry. So now just to go on a little bit of a light-hearted note, Louis, obviously from your accent, it's no secret that you are from Paris. I just want to know why South Africa and why specifically Cape Town?
Okay, so I've been coming here for more than 20 years now, and I've been settling in Cape Town almost 4 years ago. And not only because of this amazing place and wonderful people, but also, and most importantly, because I strongly believe that the future of luxury is in Africa. Not only in South Africa, actually, but in Africa. It's no secret that Condé Nast has been thinking of launching an African edition of Vogue for years. That was the main reason why I moved here at first place. It's a bit on standby right now, but I can tell you that it's a very ambitious project because Africa, as you know better than me, is not only one country. It's plus you have the diaspora and you have to encapsulate lots of different lifestyles and cultures and languages, and which is fascinating but highly complicated. But thanks to my moving here, I've met so many amazing designers and brands and manufacturers who, right from the beginning, encapsulated this need for sustainability. And I think that's going to give these designers an amazing competitive advantage on the legacy brands from Europe or from Asia or from the States, because believe me, these people have to reinvent their business model, reinvent their design and everything. When designers of this continent start from basically, not from scratch, but from a fresh look on fashion, on luxury, and they are going to reinvent this luxury. So that's really my belief. That's why I'm here.
I think it's no secret that South Africa is a complex country. Complex in terms of our political history and complex in terms of its economic crisis. And the continent of Africa is equally the same. But what's beautiful about two things that she said was that GQ South Africa launched first before Paris, and Condé Nast had you on assignment here for, I think it was 2 years, investigating Africa, South Africa, in terms of launching Vogue Africa. And I think we should never discredit ourselves, firstly as Africans, as South Africans, in terms of, specifically from the fashion side, the talent that exists in this country, the skills. And I think it's also important to sort of mention on a global platform, people like Sindisa Khumalo, Tebe Magugu, Lukanya Mendingi, that have literally waved the South African flag on a global platform with the LVMH prize. So it's really interesting. And we have amazing retail outlets like Egg, Plain Tiger, that are pushing and promoting local designers. And I think that is important.
Cyril, on that, I think earlier you said, don't be scared to collaborate.
Yeah.
We have got such talented people in our country. You don't need to do this on your own. Partner up with a friend, partner up with someone else. I've seen that working, I've seen that with the smaller brands. It's absolutely amazing. You don't need to be at the top right now. Build it, work with other people. As South Africans, we do tend to shield what we're doing, and it needs to be perfect before we show anyone. Show, get feedback. It strengthens you, it strengthens your brand as well. Collab, chat, work together.
Absolutely. Paul, I didn't see you walk in. I just spoke about Egg a few seconds ago, and you're going to be hearing from you in a few minutes. So obviously, the activity of South African retail is alive and well, and local designers. Now to get a little bit heavy on a topic, I mean, we are still in a pandemic, and I want to know from you, what are your thoughts on fashion in a post-COVID society?
Wow. I mean, I was coming here this morning, cycling here this morning, and I was thinking the last time I've been in this place was 2 years ago for the Condé Nast conference, where the CEOs of Gucci, Graf, I mean, all these people, Naomi Campbell, were on stage, this same place 2 years ago. And I was thinking, wow, in 2 years' time, we have traveled like years and years, and what has been said on stage 2 years ago at this conference is totally relevant to what we are living right now. Having said that, we see that people are going back to fast fashion. People are buying like revenge shopping on some very unsustainable e-commerce platform, etc. So I'm a bit mixed. I have mixed feelings between, okay, people have understood that we have to reinvent this industry, the fashion and luxury industry, but at the same time, we are going back to life as before. So I cannot really answer your question. My belief is, of course, that nothing is going to be like before, and that we have understood that we have to consider luxury especially as something which is bringing you a lot of pleasure, which is essential for our life. I'm convinced about that, and but it's going to be a very different luxury. You know, so I think the best definition of luxury someone gave is that a luxury item is something you can repair. If you cannot repair it, whether it's a watch or a garment or a pair of shoes or a belt, it's not luxury. If you have to throw it away after use, it's not luxury. It can be cheap. It doesn't have to be expensive. If you can repair it, if you can keep it for a long time, it's luxury. That's the best definition. So I think people have understood that after COVID. For me, that's the biggest lesson from that.
Tanya, your thoughts?
I'm in the same boat as Louis. You know, I think a year ago I would have said, okay, we've learned. Today I'm going, I don't know. I'm not quite sure. A lot of things are going back to normal. A lot of retailers and other stores are going back to the old ways of fashion. You can see the drops coming in, seasonal, not aseasonal product, quick changes. But I think the ones that are wanting to make a change need to just speak a bit louder, and it will come.
For sure. I mean, I think before COVID, we were literally on a treadmill all going somewhere. I don't know where we were going, and we were running at a rapid pace. And I think when you talk about sustainable fashion, a lot of people kind of wonder, well, what really is sustainability? What is really sustainable fashion? I'm just curious, in terms of conscious fashion, what would you say to the designers that are in the audience and people that are in the fashion business? What is important for them on a conscious level in the business of fashion? What advice would you offer them?
Know why you're making it. Know who's making it. Understand what you are producing, because once you have created or made something, it's in the world. It's not anything else but that. Be mindful of the seamstress, the CMT people that you're using, how they treat their people. Just do a little bit more research on where your fabrications have come from. Also, just watch out for things like dead stock that isn't really dead stock. Just as a designer or as a brand owner, be mindful of what you are doing, because you are playing a part in that. To me, that's the biggest thing. Just you need to be conscious. In turn, what you produce will be mindful and conscious.
Great. Louis?
No, my advice is also to keep in mind that you are the best ambassador for your brand. That's very important. Don't think that because you don't have money for advertising or influencers or whatsoever, you are not the biggest success of brands in the luxury business I've seen recently, like Ami, for example, for men's fashion in France. Or these people never invested one. I feel sorry to say that because I was trying to sell them advertising for media. They never invested €1 in advertising. They only talked about the brands. They were doing it themselves. They were not relying on e-commerce platform, on social media, on PR people. So that's tough because we know that you are creative people and you want to be dedicated to creativity, but you have to keep in mind you are the best salesperson, ambassador of your brand.
And so is your product. You know, your product should speak for itself. When you pick it up, you should know the quality. You should know how it's finished. You and your product are your ambassadors.
Thank you for that. I just also want to point out that, you know, we've obviously got an expert in e-commerce, you know, in terms of marketing, which is Tanya on the Plain Tiger side. You have Louis from Condé Nast in print and digital, literally who would launch digital on Condé Nast side. in an audience where you may have questions, and I want to open it up for questions. So if you have something that you would like to ask your panelist, because here's a great opportunity. If you are thinking of e-commerce and you are wondering on a marketing side, how do we market our brand, our business? Tanya would be the perfect person, I think, to answer, and Louis. And if you were thinking about print and you were thinking about digital, I definitely think Louis would be able to answer your questions. So if you have a question, please feel free. We're in a small gathering, so you can certainly just shout out your question, and we'll do the best to answer them. Any questions? It's Paul.
Sorry. How viable do you think e-commerce is for a brand in the South African context? If one looks at what one needs to do to be competitive in terms of logistics, you pretty much, if you want to play in that field, my experience is one needs to offer free delivery, then got reverse logistics. And one looks at the Takealots, Superb Lots, the guys that have obviously held that real estate for a substantial amount of time, and I realize with those volumes, for an individual brand, do you see e-commerce as a viable platform?
Thank you, Simon. That's a hard one. I think that's why we started Plain Tiger. Because you could see all these beautiful brands starting their sites and all of that. And to run an e-commerce business isn't free. You need to get the stock somewhere. You need to push it, market it. It's not... like you have a store and everyone goes, the shop fitting is going to cost me so much. It's expensive to open a store, where they think a digital platform is free. And I think that's where we started Plain Tiger, that we could help these smaller brands to kind of push through, carry more of the overhead on our side. So to me, as a smaller brand, no, not necessarily viable. If you need to know your money, you need to know how your business runs, you need to know how your books run. But then if not, partner with someone like us or Egg to kind of get you out there a little further, that you don't carry that type of cost with it. So to me, it's more of a pooled kind of resource, and also make sure that you are aligning with a e-commerce platform that is in alignment to your values. So yeah, you can go to the Takealots and get next day delivery, but how is that done? What's their carbon emission? So just make sure when you make a decision like that, you are making it with the right partner in mind.
I must just say you guys have done an incredible job.
Thanks, Simon. Thank you.
I think it's also important to note that Tanya is from both sides, because you were at TFG and you understand retail, a brick and mortar store, and now certainly on e-commerce. So, I think that's a good response on that one. Louis, do you want to add to that? Or?
No, I mean, for me, e-commerce was also a new job and new business. But I'm amazed by the possibilities that e-commerce offers to brands based in South Africa to have these international exposures. I mean, some of our biggest sales, we make them from the US, in Europe, and for our vendors, until we sell anything, we don't cost them anything. I mean, there is basically no investment from our vendors except a bit of time that we try to make it very precious, very, very short, and suddenly they are exposed to many markets, many new customers. So, frankly, I think it's a huge opportunity. Not only Plain Tiger, and there are some other very good marketplaces in South Africa.
Any other questions? Yes.
Tanya, could I ask you a question, please? Is Plain Tiger open to young and inexperienced new designers to help them push their brands into e-commerce? People who are inexperienced, who haven't got your experience, are you prepared to help them to get started?
I think that's exactly why we're getting involved in all fashion sourcing and initiatives like that we can kind of start highlighting these beautiful young designers. So Louis, Cyril, and myself are actually judging the awards today, the finalists today.
Young Designer.
The Young Designers Awards. And then in turn, we'll put them through our Sustainability Accelerator, that they can become upskilled on kind of the criteria that's really important in Plain Tiger. And then in turn, onto our platform, hopefully. So for us, that's why we started something like that the pipeline, we can feed the brand with the pipeline with the right type of designers. Because our belief is you've got to get them at a young age, because that's where you create your brand. That's where you create why you are doing this. So that's why we're trying to get involved with initiatives like this. So yes, definitely.
And also, I'd like to add to that as well, is that when we were busy with the accelerator program, TFG came on board to sponsor 5 designers, 5 young designers. And they tasked us with the challenge, really, of looking for who would be good to put onto the accelerator with the possibility of designing for TFG down the line. I also had a conversation with Egg as well, and they were also keen on the similar thing. So I think it kind of works hand in glove, that retail, South Africa, corporate is very interested in young talent, and platforms like the accelerator give the opportunity for designers to harness their skill set, like Tanya was talking about. So it is there. Natalie, you had a question.
Yes. Hi guys. So I launched an e-commerce brand about 4.5 months ago. Very, very new. I would just like to know from you guys, with all the experience you have in launching, for example, Plain Tiger, that's a hugely successful e-commerce brand. What are some of the key things that you think people like myself should focus on building and growing one's community, brand community and following? What is...
We're going to need to have a coffee, and we can have a lovely chat around that. There's no easy answer, I can tell you right now. I think even with Plain Tiger, coming from corporate retail, you would think this is the way to do it. It's not. And then you try something else. So you got to learn, you got to experiment, you got to understand why you're doing it. You got to believe in it, give it enough time, give it 2 weeks to test and try, test and try. You will have not failures, you will have opportunities to learn. And I'm telling you, the minute you kind of shed that mindset and you go, oh, well, that didn't work as I've expected, let me try that, and you see a better uptake, you just need to test. There's no easy way, but we'll have a coffee and we'll have a chat, but test and play and have fun with it. They keep on saying fashion is fun, retail should be fun. You should enjoy it. You wouldn't be in this industry if you weren't passionate or really loved what you were doing. You should do the same thing by trying to sell your business.
Louis, do you want to add to that?
No, not much. I mean, I think what we are doing through the accelerator is going to give you some answers, hopefully. And as I said before, always think that you are the best ambassador to your brand. But your brand has to be, you have to have a very strong brand platform. I think that lots of designers, especially, they are very highly creative, they have amazing ideas, but they are very often, I mean, that's what we are doing every day, is scouting new brands. And sometimes we see their talents in terms of design, of sewing, of everything, but we discover that very often that they haven't worked on their brand platform. That's very often. And we don't select brands according to the experience on e-commerce, by the way. We are here to provide the e-commerce experience. So we onboard brands which have a potential in our business, which is sustainable luxury, even if they don't have any e-commerce experience.
You wanted to add to that?
No, I think I'll talk for hours on this topic.
but I think, Natalie, just to also say that I think in the interaction we've had with the accelerator and some of the emails you sent through, some of the stuff in terms of fabrication, you clearly have a really good understanding of your design platform, your market, and I think you stay true to your design values. And I think that's a good thing, because the right customer profile and the right audience will be attracted to what you are putting out. So I think just keeping on in the direction that you're going. I also see Neo in our audience from KwaZulu-Natal, from Durban. And Durban has also been pushing a lot of creative talent and incredible talent as well. Anybody else with a question that they would like to ask? Follow up.
It's not really it's relating to me, but e-commerce is moving forward in a big way. And in the South African market, how do you guys see that affecting brick and mortar stores? And sustainability
I mean, the answer to that question is we thought about that, and people will always be wanting to buy fashion or luxury. And it's not because you are going to stop e-commerce that people are not going, you know what I mean? So we are, as far as we are concerned, of course, we are trying to, we are not trying, we are actually compensating all our deliveries, carbon emissions, offsetting all our carbon emissions because of deliveries through a partnership with an organization based in South America and in Africa. But we are offering a possibility of people to buy sustainable brands. And I think the solution is not to say, okay, we should stop buying everything, we should go back to living in grottos, and you know what I mean. No, but some people have this thinking, and I think we have to go ahead and to offer some alternative way of buying, and try to do our best, yes, to not harm the environment and the planet.
I think from a South African point of view, there will be some markets that would more traditionally stick to going into a store, touching it, feeling it. The Middle East is quite that way as well. They want to feel, they want to touch their product. It will take time. It will take time for e-commerce to outweigh traditional retail in South Africa, is my view. Hopefully not too long. But I think it's how you deal with that. So how do you upskill your store staff? How do you get them into another discipline that they would not have known before? And I think that's up to big businesses to do that type of thing. And that's about sustainability. And if they have good ethos and good values, they will manage that type of thing, which I'm sure they all will.
I think it's also on your customer profile. I think certain people love a brick and mortar store because they want to go in, try it on, fit it on. I personally like that, to go in, physically try something on. And then there's other things like, and I'm not sponsored by Checkers, but I love Checkers 60 minutes shopping, right? You go online, pick everything, and you get into your Zoom meeting and things are delivered right to your door. So I think it's about ease, it's about convenience, and it's about your lifestyle. So that's really where it is. Before we round up, any last questions? Yes, Neo. Yes.
Good morning. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. It's greatly appreciated. What I would like to find out is, do you feel that there is an oversaturation of emerging designers in South Africa? Why is it that we've got hundreds and thousands of emerging designers? When I mention emerging designers, I mean those coming from university who are starting out their brand, or those who don't have any formal education, who have just got the techniques and creativity. There's hundreds and thousands across South Africa, but there's only maybe 10 who are globally or even continentally known. Why is that? And why is there such a huge barrier for those emerging designers who are talented, like pure, unbelievable talent? They are unable to just break that ceiling for them to receive the exposure, whether it's within South Africa, within the continent, or even globally. Like, what is it that is kind of limiting our emerging and some established designers in South Africa? Thank you.
Thanks for that, Neo. Did you? Yeah.
Yes, I for having been living here for 4 years and having my eyes all over the continent, not only in South Africa, I can tell you that there are not so many. I wouldn't say there is we are overwhelmed by the number of talented. There are lots of talented designers, but what they lack mostly is obviously investment. That's number one, but that's the case for many industries in Africa. That's true for any startups in Africa, especially in this city. So investment is a big issue. Second issue is schooling. We don't have this. Africa should have one big fashion school, like you have St. Martin's in London or Institut Français de la Mode in France. And maybe third is media. you don't have fashion media in, so that's coming, and I think that influencers, e-commerce platforms, retailers are doing what media should be doing, and because there are not so many fashion media. But yes, that's if we can improve one of these three or these three issues, I think it will be a big boost for African designers.
Anything? I think also, Neil, one of the conversations Tanya and I had was during the judging of all fashion of all the designers. It was very clear that you could see from some of the artwork and the applications, those that went to good schools, fashion schools, and those that didn't. You know, and I think it's the reality of the economic situation in South Africa. And I think to answer the question, 100% agree with you. There's enormous talent right across South Africa that is not yet discovered. There's a certain few that are being acknowledged. But I do think, on a positive note, there are amazing companies and brands that are taking note, that are also looking out and wanting to invest in these designers. And I really do believe that there's no better time for the fashion industry than now. So quite excited there. And on that note, I'm going to end, but I want to sort of just talk a little bit about Fashion Revolution as well, and just tell you, in terms of if you ever care about the planet, if you care about poverty, if you care about women's rights, if you care about what's happening on the socioeconomic platform, look no further than the clothes on your back. Okay, and I'd encourage you to hop online at Fashion Revolution, hop on to Plain Tiger, to e-commerce, certainly at Egg, pop into the stores. And again, thank you to Neil and the team at Messe Frankfurt for this opportunity and platform. I think one of the things there, it also highlights the talent that we have as well locally. So thanks everybody, and thanks to Louis and to Tanya. It's been great to chat with you this morning, and thank you for sharing your insights and knowledge with our audience. Thanks everybody.